Welcome to the 2022 Coffee Break Debates hosted by the Waseca High School American Government and Political Science classes. Today we are pleased to welcome the candidates for Waseca School Board. Hi, I am Haley Summers, a member of the CIS Political Science class here at Waseca High School. I will be the moderator for today's coffee break debate between those running for the Waseca School Board. Reminder that voters will choose 4 candidates on the ballot this year. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement followed by questions submitted from the students. We will conclude with each candidate having a brief closing statement. We will now begin the school board debate with opening statements from each candidate. Ms. Bowers.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Bowers. I'm married to Mike Bowers, and we have 3 daughters who attend Waseca Public Schools. My family is from the Waldorf-Pemberton area. I grew up in Owatonna and graduated from Owatonna High School. After that, I went to MSU Mankato, where I studied institutional finance, and I worked at a local bank in Mankato for almost 20 years. 9 years ago, Mike and I moved to Waseca. 4 years ago, I took a job at a local bank here in Waseca. Since taking that job in town here, I've enjoyed being involved with the Waseca community. Currently, I'm on the Waseca Area Chamber Board, I'm on the Junior Achievement Board, and the Waseca Fusion Volleyball Board. This will be my last year with Junior Achievement. I volunteered there for 13 years in the classroom. Also a 2019 and 2020 graduate of the Leadership Greater Waseca Academy.
Mr. Demmel.
Hi, I'm Scott Demmel. I'm a current board member here in Waseca. I've been part of Waseca for 22 years. Me and my wife, Carrie, have a son, Thomas, who graduated in 2020. I am a local business owner. I'm part of Assistant Scoutmaster with Troop 85 for about 10 years, and was a scout leader with the local Cub Scouts for about 11 years. I'm also participating in numerous service projects with the Scouts, such as Scouting for Food, Free Flags for Vets. I love supporting our Blue Jays by attending sporting events, musicals, plays, concerts, fundraisers like the Blue Jay Blast. Thank you.
Mr. Dickerson.
Hi, my name is Robert Dickerson. I'm a locomotive engineer for the railroad here in Waseca, Canadian Pacific. I moved to town here when I hired out on the railroad in 2008. I was born in Austin, Minnesota, and went to school actually in Moorhead through 6th grade, and then moved to Washington State for junior high and high school and migrated my way back. I'm also Assistant State Legislative Director for Smart Transportation Division for our union, and I'm on the Church Council at First Congregational Church on the Finance Committee. I have 3 kids in school here in Waseca, 1 at Hartley and 2 here at the junior high.
Mr. Dunn.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Dunn. Thanks for having me here today. Some information about myself. I am a Waseca native, Waseca graduate, and have a bachelor's degree in education from Mankato State. I worked with him. I worked for the railroad for 35 years. About half the time I was a locomotive engineer, and about half the time I was in management. 2 adult children, grandchildren, stepdaughter who was now in her senior year of college. My wife, Melissa, is a special ed teacher at New Richland High School, and I am on the boards. Besides being a current member of the school board, I'm on the board of Waseca Area Foundation, Waseca County Historical Society, and Maple Terrace Board. I have a total of 13 years school board experience, 9 years previously, and 4 years currently, and I am the current school board clerk. Thank you.
Mr. Isker.
Hi, thank you for having me here. My name is Andrew Isker. I'm the pastor of 4th Street Evangelical Church. I'm a columnist for Gab News. I'm an author, and I have 5 children who represent the 6th generation of my family, the Iskers, to live in Waseca. I graduated from Waseca High School in 2004. I was just like these students here in Mr. Hansen's class about 20 years ago. And I have years of experience as an educator, both in public and private schools all over the United States. So I've seen it all, and I can tell you for a fact that most of us here do not know at all how good we have it here in Waseca with the quality of schools and educators that we have. The reason that I'm running for school board is that I love this town. I could have chosen anywhere in the country to move back to or to move to, and I chose to raise my family here in Waseca because there's nowhere else better in the entire country. But our town, I shouldn't even have to say this, but our town's in steep decline, and this decline is going to continue unless someone steps up and says no to irresponsible spending that is destroying our town and its economy. So if we could continue to tax and spend more and more and shrink our town further and shrink our town's tax base, or we can say no and we can begin to rebuild our town and the things that we've lost. So I'm running because I want my children and your children to experience a community that was just as great as what I grew up in as a child. Thank you.
Mr. Kruger.
Good afternoon. Fourth generation here in this community. I'm raising a fifth graduate class of 2000. I've worked for commercial HVAC field for 20 years and been a project manager estimator for 10 of those years. A great portion of my projects I work on are public schools all over the state, mainly southern Minnesota, but we get everywhere. Projects have led me to meet a lot of school staff in multiple districts and see what they have to offer their communities and what kind of conditions their buildings and whatnot are in, what they have to work with. Community involvement is a big part, I think, everybody should have. It's something I believe strongly in, and my wife, she's a nurse manager here in town at the Mayo Clinic. We're raising 3 children currently. They're in Waseca schools, and I've been a board member on our Waseca youth wrestling club for a few years. The community is a great community, awesome in many ways, and it's a great place to call home and raise your family. So I feel with some skills that I have, knowledge, dedication I've developed over my life, it's worth offering back to the community. Thank you.
Mr. Michaels.
Good afternoon. I'm John Michaels. I grew up on an acreage in a hobby farm between Northfield and Lakeville and brought a lot of those values with me everywhere I went that I learned out there. And I'm a Waseca resident now, went to MSU, and I'm in Mankato, and I am a small business owner in the Mankato area. Getting kind of to the meat of things, as a small business owner, it's my job to make sure that things are running efficiently and smoothly, so we're investing wisely. And I see a lot of things infrastructurally with the school board that are going to be addressed this year, particularly new builds potentially or renovations. And I got to say I'm going to vote where the value is. And it's great to be thrifty in a town of 9,200 people where a large portion of them are incarcerated and not actually contributing to the public coffers. So if you're going to build a building, you have to ask yourself who's paying for it. And if you're not going to build a building, what do you want to get out of it? And in this case, the curriculum is the important part. It's not where you house it. That's about it from me.
Mr. Preeb.
Hi, I'm Charlie Preeb, and thanks for the opportunity to speak here today. So have you ever thought about how decisions are made? People tell me that I have a lot of common sense. My wife tells me that I'm an information gatherer. When we must make a decision, I do a lot of research and reach back to previous experiences. I was raised in Waseca County, graduated from Newton High School, and have a bachelor's degree from the U of M in soil and plant science. I grew up having a handicapped brother and one sister. I married a school teacher during my senior year in college. After returning to the farm, we raised 3 kids. In addition to our farm life, I became a Pioneer seed agent and did that for several years. During that time, Bonnie was diagnosed with breast cancer, and we subsequently left the farm and seed business behind and built a home on German Lake where she passed away. I was working at the Pioneer Seed Research Station in Mankato at that time, and after her passing was asked to travel to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico to observe some corn plots. That's where the travel bug hit me. It was a dark time in my life, but the trip lifted my spirits. 2 years later, I remarried. Just like that, I now had a blended family with 4 additional children and a whole bunch of grandkids, with 4 of them still in school here. We've been fortunate to be able to do a lot of traveling. We've been as far north as Fairbanks, Alaska, as far west as Hawaii, as far south as the Panama Canal, and as far east as Israel, along with a whole lot of places in between. I've walked the battlefields of Yorktown and Gettysburg, the beaches in Normandy, and seen the gas chambers at Auschwitz. These are experiences that help me make decisions along with the life lessons that I've learned along the way. As a school board member, you are going to make decisions that affect a lot of lives. I threw my hat in the ring 6 years ago when there was a resignation. I was selected and officially ran and elected 4 years ago. Being a school board member is a two-way street. You represent the community to the school, but you also represent the school to the community. As a member of the ag community, I know a lot of ag producers. We have decisions that are coming where we're going to need their support, and I feel that I can relate to them and get that support. Thanks again.
Thank you. Question 1. Hartley Elementary has served the school district well since 1956. It has become quite costly to maintain this aging K-3 facility. There are a variety of options for the school district and how to deal with this situation. What do you believe would be the best strategy to deal with this issue? Mr. Demo.
So that is one of our questions right now that we're really working through. I believe that at this time, I think a construction of a new school would be most economical for the short term, but also for the long term. To remodel what is Hartley now, it does not reset the body of the building. There's a lot of things in there that we can't correct, like the ceiling heights, the ADA compliance on bathrooms in the current classrooms. And with a new building, I think that we can give our students better areas to learn in. Kids learn differently all the time, and it's nice to have our open settings like we have now at the high school here, and some of those things will come into the new school. It also resets the time clock on a new building, and will lower our costs for long-term facilities expenses. So, thank you.
Mr. Dickerson.
So, I've kind of talked to people about this, and I know this has been an issue talked about for a few years now. I think the cost to maintain Hartley is going to become untenable if it hasn't already. One of the ideas that I heard floated was building an addition onto Wes and moving Hartley out there, combining the schools. That may be the most cost-effective measure. But at some point, we're going to have to do something about the school. Construction prices go up every year, as was pointed out to me. So we're going to have to make a decision and put it to the community in the near future.
Mr. Dunn.
I've been on the facilities committee for 10 years. First as a community member and now as a school board member. So I've been a part of these discussions for a long time. Over that time, we've looked at a lot of options about what we could do with Hartley. Could we fix it up? Could we remodel it? Could we tear it down and build another school right there? And then the one I think we've although this has not been decided for sure, I think the one that we're kind of heading toward is, and it's already been mentioned, is putting an addition onto the intermediate school. That building then would become a K-6 building. It would give us, and I agree with what's been said here too, that what's the best use of the dollars, because we have to go to the public for a bond issue, they have to approve it, and they have to pay for it. So I think probably the wisest thing would be to look pretty hard at building an addition onto us. Having said that, we need to do something with Hartley. I think we've gotten to the point where we've studied it, we've talked about it, we've asked questions. Something needs to be done. So we need to do that in the near future. Thank you.
Mr. Isker.
Yes, thank you. I fundamentally disagree with what the current board members think about Hartley. To begin with, Waseca is a poor town. We don't have the money to be able to afford these things. Our tax base shrinks every single year. And so if we keep spending money like Brown Printing and E.F. Johnson and all the other businesses are still here, we're never going to have businesses come to our town. It's going to be this bedroom community that is a snake eating its own tail for the foreseeable future and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so, I mean, it's a question of what's the vision for the town, right? There has to be a coordinated, comprehensive vision for the town from the county, from the city, and from the school board, and it has to be to lower spending. And so when you're poor, maybe not all of you have had, not had money before, but when you're poor, you have to make do with what you have, right? You have to make do with what you have. In private schools, I've worked in schools where we had 30 to 40% national merit scholars, and our classrooms were trailers, okay? So you can make do with a lot less than we have. We are so blessed with what we already have right here, right now. So with Hartley, it's way better conditions than I've taught in before in private school, so we can make do with it, right? And the maintenance costs, we can do the bare minimum and get by, because someday maybe the town will grow if we have discipline and restraint, and then businesses can come in here, and then we could spend $30 million on a new public school, new Hartley, but we can't do that right now.
Mr. Kruger.
Can you run down that question one more time for me?
Hartley Elementary has served the school district well since 1956. It has become quite costly to maintain this aging K-3 facility. There are a variety of options for the school district and how to deal with this situation. What do you believe would be the best strategy to deal with this issue?
So just one quick thing here. I think this school was roughly redone in 2019, somewhere in there. Add 50 years on that, 60 years on that. We're going to push this one over. Okay, so that's one thought. I was involved in part of the Hartley Facilities Committee. There's a lot of different thoughts that you can go on there. That's, you just got to think about it. You don't want to push that over and have that hole in your community. I hear low ceilings, low ceilings, low ceilings. My kids are learning great with a low ceiling. I'll tell you that right now. But with that said, there are things that need to come with change. ADA, sure. You need to add on 3-4 kindergarten bathrooms to meet ADA. That's a lot cheaper than a new school. Do you need to look at replacing Hartley down the road? Sure. Make your additions so that you can add on to the other side, push over Hartley when our community can afford it. Our city council needs to get on board with this. There's a lot of things that have really halted us from this, because we have a lot of other community costs in our community that is adding up for our tax, high tax rates. So with that, there's different ways to go about it, but you add on to WIS, you got a congestion issue, you've got, cost with that, and your small town thinking then, because if our city council gets its ducks in a row, you start growing this community, you're outgrowing that addition, you got everybody out here, then what are you going to do with them in 10 years when your community's outgrown it, okay? And then you threw away another spot that we already had in this community. I'm assuming that there's you can go so deep in this, but there's a fine line. You got to keep your, we're the largest, the school is probably one of the largest employees in this community, and you got to keep that happy too, to keep it going. But I've been in Richland, I've been in Ellendale, I've been in Waterville, I've been in Janesville, I've been in Albert Lee, I've been in Austin. Hartley's not a bad school compared to some things those communities have.
Mr. Michaels.
Well, the issue of taxes has been raised. The question of how do you pay for a new building, and you're probably going to hear something like, oh, the state will contribute funds or the feds will contribute funds, but that's tax dollars that have already been collected, so it's still your money. No matter what, it comes out of your pocket to do a project like this. And My house in Waseca here was also built in 1956, and it functions great. It's not dilapidated. Myself, the people who built it, the people that have lived in there before me, have each taken the time to invest in it and reinforce the things that are wrong with it to make it a better, more functional space. And you can certainly do that if you have bones. And this building has those bones. So I would caution against doing anything in the, I guess, the foreground of what's probably going to be a nasty recession coming in the near future. I would rather not be caught with our pants down trying to finish a building that we're not ready for. Thank you.
Mr. Preeb.
I feel our job as a board is to provide educational opportunities to our children in the most efficient and effective way. So how do we do that? You know, I look at the Hartley School. It can be renovated. It can be, but it's still a school that's located in a residential area. If we bring the students out here and add on to the intermediate school right now, we gain the efficiencies of transportation. We're only going to be bringing kids to one location. We gain the efficiencies of food service. We are moving special ed people back and forth between schools. We improve efficiency. So that I'm looking at the efficiency thing, and as I look at Waseca in a long term. The growth of Waseca has grown in government. If we look at government, the city has bought the Wolf and Holbein building. Then we buy the Ben Franklin building. Then we buy the Erickson building, and now we bought that. So the growth in Waseca has been in government. How do we condense that? How do we cut that growth, that government growth that's going on here? And one of the ways is to combine our school system into one location and create a learning environment and this, and it seems that the town is moving in this direction. So I would certainly want to look quite seriously at adding on to the intermediate school to provide the education for our young people. So,
Ms. Bowers.
So I don't think there's any question that Hartley has some serious issues that need to be addressed. When we moved here, my oldest daughter was in 3rd grade, and I remember taking a tour of Hartley, and there were 2 narrow stairwells going downstairs for those 3rd graders. That needs some work. I just don't feel like that is a great place for those 3rd graders to be. Hartley is a great school, but it's the people, not the building. Like anybody else, I would love a new building. I think it sounds great. Who really wouldn't? But it does cost money. My concern with bringing Hartley out and having one campus for K through 12 is the congestion up here. All you seniors know it. Pretty much everybody around town knows it. You don't want to drive up here between 7:45 and 8:05 in the morning. You don't want to drive up here between 2:50 and 3:15 in the afternoon. It's not a fun place to be. It's not a fun place for kids to be walking to and from school, especially your kindergartners and your 1st graders. That being said, I'm not opposed to looking into the idea of making one campus out here, K through 12. But the city's going to have to be on board, and we're going to have to look at some serious infrastructure. How are you going to make that work? How are you going to make that safe for the kids? And the other thing is now you've got everything out here in the northwest part of town. What do you do with Hartley there? I love Hartley. I love that it's in a residential neighborhood. I think that it is a nice neighborhood for an elementary school, and my concern is being out here, all of the traffic and the commercial space right now.
Question 2, handling input from constituents. What do you believe is the best way for a school board member to deal with a call from a parent complaining about something that has happened in the schools, as well as how much should these calls influence a board member's decision? Mr. Dickerson.
As a union officer, I get phone calls with people complaining all the time. Board members need to be responsive and listen to what the community has to say, what parents have to say, what students have to say. On the other hand, the board doesn't have the duty of running the school on a day-to-day basis. That falls to the administration, and I don't think it's appropriate for board members to get involved in issues until it's run its due course through the administration, through the principal, through the superintendent's office. You definitely need to pay attention to what's going on. If there's signs of bigger issues that would fall under the purview of the board as far as policy and setting policy and guidance. So it's kind of a balancing act.
Mr. Dunn.
I would agree with that. When you become a school board member and you take training through the Minnesota State School Boards Association in St. Peter, I think one of the first things they try to tell you is you're not to micromanage. That's one of the biggest ways school board members can get into trouble, is micromanaging. As far as someone calling with a concern, you need to listen, you need to be respectful, and then you need to ask a few questions. Like, for example, have you talked to the teacher? Have you talked to the coach? Have you talked to the advisor? Have you talked to the building principal? And then depending on whatever the answer is, you direct them the right way to go. Would probably even be worth a follow-up call or an email or something like that, just to check in with them later. Did you get your question answered? Did you get the problem resolved? Is there more we need to do? Do we need to kick it up to another level? So you gotta kind of follow the chain of command. And like was just said, the administrators, they're in charge of administrating the school district, and we have to let them do their job. And so, yeah, that'd be my answer, I guess. Thank you.
Mr. Isker.
Yeah, thank you. I think to start with, we have to understand what a school board is, that we are representing our constituents, right, and their interests. And so that fundamentally, that's what we are. We are the voice for the people of our community. And so if there are things going on in the school and a number of parents call me up, right, I'm going to look into that. Right, I want to know what's going on. We've seen all across the entire country all sorts of issues that the Federal Department of Education, Minnesota State Department of Education are pushing onto schools as far as curriculum and things like that. And it is the duty of the school board to represent our community against Joe Biden and against Tim Walz. And so that's a concern of mine, a chief concern of mine, is protecting our community, protecting our teachers, protecting our students and their families. And so those kind of calls, I want to know about things, right? And I'm not going to micromanage the superintendent, and do his job for him. He's compensated very well, very handsomely. And I won't be as a school board member, so there's not enough time to do that. But we have authority, right? Authority that we wield on behalf of our community that we have to use wisely. And that means taking input from the community.
Mr. Kruger.
I got a lot of similar, I agree with a lot of things that have been said down the line here. There's, somebody comes to you, you have people hired to take care of certain aspects of, the degree of whatever the concerns are. And, like Mr. Dunn said, you direct them if they need the direction to get to the proper people. If there's some frustration and whatnot, you kind of guide them along the way just to check up on them. And it's just like I do at work. We have a problem on construction sites. So we go to the proper people to address it and take care of the problem, so we have a good solution and a resolution at the end there. It's common practice in a lot of different things in life, I guess. But there are people that are put in place, and that hopefully doesn't ever show, that there's a missing link and they're not covering its spot. So, but you just got to be genuine to the people and gather all the facts and hope for the best outcome. So.
Mr. Michaels.
Yeah, excuse me. I think that it's kind of it's integral to the school board to actually pay attention to what the parents are saying. We are their representatives, and as Mr. Isker said, it's important to protect their interests in their children's education. So if somebody's bringing something up, whether you agree with it or not, you need to be following up and asking the questions, as has been raised by several other people. It's just basic responsibility. If we don't have the integrity as a school board to do our job, then what are we the school board for? I guess that's it for me. Thanks.
Mr. Preeb.
Well, when that happens, the first thing you do is you listen. You have to listen to the concern. You have to try to understand the concern as best you can. There's a lot of things you can and cannot do as a school board member. We as a board have one employee, and that's the superintendent. It's his job or her job to run the school. And if there's issues going on, it has to be handled through the administration. If that doesn't work, then we have to have other conversations. But first thing we need to do is we need to listen, and we need to understand the problem. And then ask the question, what do you think we should be doing? I've had that situation where things have went wrong in the field, and what do you think we should do about it? I mean, and a lot of times they have a solution what they would like to see happen, and so. But I think the first thing is we have to do is listen. We can't be judgmental in one way or the other. It's about listening. I've told people, a lot of times is that I might not agree with you, but I'm going to listen to you. So.
Ms. Bowers.
So with any parent or community member's complaint, I think you need to be compassionate and sensitive to that. Odds are this is something that they've thought about and has been bothering them for quite some time. The school board has, policies and procedures in place for the operation of pretty much everything. So going back to that parent and asking them those questions and seeing, have they taken the appropriate steps? Have they talked to the teacher? Have they visited with the principal? I think that's what Dave had mentioned previously. Those are going to be their first steps. And if things aren't happening the way they should then, or they're not getting the results that they're getting, or the answers that they want, then absolutely the school board might be the next step for them. As a school board member, I think that's your job then to kind of follow up on it, ask them what they would like to see done, and figure it out.
Mr. Demmel.
I think for me, it's always listen first. If you can give them some feedback that you are listening, and that if there's something simple that can be said to them that already, that it's come up before, you can give them that information. Otherwise, you listen, you take notes, and you pass it on to the right people, which is primarily Mr. Hutsmith with our superintendent, for him to follow up with and make sure that information is being handled, and or the problems or whatever has arisen, that they're being responded to. And then I think you make sure that you follow up at a later date to make sure that things were handled, and get the answers, so that the next time that comes up, that you may have more answers for them. I think that's important.
Question 3, role of the school board member. What role, if any, does a school board member play in being an ambassador for the school district within the community? Mr. Dunn.
I would say a school board member has a big role to play, being an ambassador for the school district in the community. You have many opportunities, you have many conversations, communications, contact with people, where you can promote the school that you have in your community. I truly believe that a good part of the reason why I wanted to be on the school board is because I think Waseca really, really, really does have a good school district. Are we perfect? No. we get every problem solved? Not necessarily, but I think we're pretty good most of the time. I think we do a lot of things well. I think we have, all in all, a really good staff. We have good students. I know when I talk with Mr. Hudspeth, Eric Hudspeth, our current superintendent, Tom Lee before him, and I say, what do schools, what do communities around Waseca say about Waseca? And it's always, it's a nice town, and you really, really have a good school system. So I think a school board member needs to take every opportunity they can to promote the school district and try to do that in the community as best they can.
Mr. Isker.
Yes, my perspective on what a school board member should be doing as far as representing the school district community is much of what I've said already. Is we represent our community, right? That's our role here. Our role is that Waseca Schools is ours, right? Is Waseca's. It's not the state's. It's not the federal government's. It is Waseca's, right? And we are a unique community. We're a unique town. We have a unique culture, right? And that's ours, right? Every time I have been up in the cities for work, the coworkers I've had will always say when our teams go to state how well represented our town is. I mean, there's like 5,000 people, at the state championship, and it's like, oh, there's not even that many people in your town. How come there's so many people here, right? We love our school, we love our town, and we're very proud of it. And the role of the school board is to protect what makes Waseca so unique, and to represent our community, the interests of our community when outside people threaten it.
Mr. Kruger.
You're the speaker for the people that vote you in. You're the speaker for the students, number one. And you're looking for the best well-being in the education system for your students. You're looking for your facilities so that they're up to par for what your community can withstand. You represent in many ways, and you're relied on by the community. So it's a big part of it. I mean, you're a voice, and it's good to listen. So communicate what your taxpayers and students are asking for, and you'll be noticed as a school board member.
Mr. Michaels.
The schools are one of the essential building blocks of the town, so when people leave here and they stick around, they reinvest in Waseca as a place and a community. So the students, the parents, even just the taxpayer who has no horse in the race beyond that, all of those people have a voice in what is taught and where those ideas come from. And you have to shape and form things to meet that culture. And I think essentially the only way you're going to learn that is if you're speaking to those people regularly and being a fixture where people can approach you and have that conversation so that the school board can do its duty to the town and represent well and represent the area. We are the county seat after all, so it's up to the school board to make sure that we have a strong foundation in the school to do that.
Mr. Preeb.
Well, I think it's important as a school board member to actually visit the school, visit the classrooms, go around, get to know the teachers, get to know the kids, get to know the administration, so that when you are out in the public and the public asks you a question, you have an idea what's actually going on in school, and because there's always a lot of misconceptions, and that's one of the things that I see is that there's always misconceptions about what's happening in school. So we want to leave, as a board member, we want to leave a good positive image about our school. We want to listen to our people. We want to listen to our students and our staff and what's going on here. So I think that's the best way, is just get in there and visit and be out there and be in the public, when people ask you some questions, drill down, ask them some questions, find out where they are. And again, listen to your constituents, listen to your people.
Ms. Bowers.
Absolutely. We are an ambassador of our community as school board members. We're elected by the community and we're representing the community. I think it's important for school board members to stay positive and to be transparent and ask questions, answer questions, and be available for your community members.
Mr. Dickerson. Oh, sorry. Mr. Demmel.
Thank you. First of all, we are ambassadors. We need to be out in the community. We need to be talking to our constituents, seeing what our students are doing in their classes, with the plays, concerts, sporting events, talking to our administrators, sitting down with the principals 1 or 2 times a year is definitely beneficial to see what's going on in their buildings. And then that's really what I've got.
Mr. Dickerson.
Listen, community members, parents, students, teachers. Obviously, we all want our kids to succeed when they leave school. We want to provide the best education and their best chance for success. And you're elected by the taxpayers, but I think the students have an input, teachers have an input. And I don't know. It's the other thing too with the board was developing. As you listen to people, I know the board develops long and short-term plans for the school, but again, input when you're doing that from the community is important.
We will now proceed to our closing statements. Mr. Ickerson.
Isker.
Mr. Ickers.
Isker.
Iskers. Mr. Isker.
All right, now I can go.
Yeah, my bad.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Thank you for moderating, and students for your questions, putting on this forum today. The choice that we have on November 8th is very clear. We can either continue to do the same things that we've always done. We can try to maintain the status quo in our town as our town continues to die. Or we can do things differently. We can change. We can begin to live within our means and hopefully begin to grow again. We can have a school board that is a rubber stamp for St. Paul and Tim Walz and a rubber stamp for Joe Biden and the Department of Education. Or we can have one that looks out for the interests of our community. And so if you want a school board that will defend your interests, vote for me. If you want a rubber stamp and you want the status quo, right, you can vote for other people. Thank you.
Mr. Kruger.
Well, first off, I want to thank you to all involved, Waseca High School, senior government political science classes, and thank you, Haley, for your moderation. Mr. Hanson, thank you. We got to live within our means on certain things. There's things changing out there, and we got to take some decisions seriously. You also want to provide, a great learning experience for our children and make sure that we're putting everything in front of them to challenge them and getting them places that are available to grow in life. So there's a lot of things that come with these positions, and you need the good people in there to make the correct decisions for your community and children. I just want to say thank you, and looking forward to your vote in November.
Mr. Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for organizing this, and for all of you for showing up and giving us people to talk to. I'm just going to close with a basic lesson I learned growing up from that hobby farm, which is simply that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're doing it with, when you take your leave from that situation, all three of those things should be better than you found them. So the school board, whoever you vote for, they should be the type of people that can actually develop and grow the town with integrity and lead us to be fruitful, and especially our kids to be fruitful and productive members of the world that they go out to be part of. Thank you.
Mr. Prieb.
Well, thank you for having us here today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. So the question becomes, we have a lot of decisions to make. So who's going to be the best decision makers? And what experiences have you had to make them kind of decisions? Everybody lives in a little different, comes from a little different place. And so, again, like I tell you before, I'm a listener. I listen to people, and I don't always have to be right. I can always take the bump. That's not a problem. So, but anyhow, we thank you again for having us here, and like I say before, I will listen to you.
Ms. Bowers.
Thanks, Haley, Mr. Hanson, for having us all here today. I think these coffee break debates give us a good opportunity to hear about all of our local candidates that you wouldn't normally hear, their thought processes on the different issues that they're going to be dealing with. I encourage you to watch the other debates as well, and just use this as an opportunity to see what you're going to be voting for come November. So, thank you.
Mr. Demmel.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Thank you, the seniors, for what you've done for this. I think it's an awesome community project that you've given us. I've enjoyed my 4 years on the school board, and I would love to continue. I think there's a lot of decisions coming down the pipeline that need a sound mind to make, and not to be hasty about it. We've gathered information on a lot of different things over the years, and I hope that you would represent me and vote for me. Thank you.
Mr. Dickerson.
I want to thank you guys for having us here today. You know, there's so many different opinions about what we should do, but at the end of the day, Waseca has a great school system. We have great staff, and I think we need to continue down the path that we're on. We're doing the right things, and you know, when it comes to making decisions, you look at things, evaluate them from all points of view, and come up with a logical conclusion. And I think the current board has done a great job, and I think we're going to continue to do a great job in the future.
Mr. Dunn.
This is pretty simple with me, and I want to read this a couple times. Our community's children are our greatest asset, and I'd like to say that one more time. Our community's children are our greatest asset. I want to see them get the best education possible that our community can afford to give them. I also want to continue supporting the administration, the staff, the students, and the community in meeting this goal. Thank you.
That concludes our debate for today. Thank you to our candidates for participating. Special thanks to Chuck Pollock and Jenna Pina for their time and talents, and to the City of Waseca for broadcasting all the debates during the weeks leading up to the election. Those can be found on the PEG Channel 8. All of the coffee break debates can also be viewed on the Waseca Public Schools website. Simply just Google Waseca Public Schools. Again, thank you for your support of Waseca High School Coffee Break Debates.